Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Beyond Connections, which is our bi-monthly week session where you can ask us, the Abacus Research Team, about your burning questions about the market. I am Elizabeth from the research team. I'm joined by
Hi, good afternoon. I'm Herman de la Paz.
Good afternoon, I'm Isaiah. If you have any questions on charts, just comment in the section.
So
Okay.
feel free to send us your questions or any kind of comments that you might have about our reports if you have been able to access them already, especially to our clients. And if you're not a client of MyTrade, now's your chance to open an account with us so that you can also see our research reports on our opinions on the market today. So while we wait for your questions, um, what developments do you want to share with us, Herman?
Okay, actually, papalapit na tayo ng earnings season. For some companies, they have already published their earnings reports for Q2. So for today, Aboitiz Power for the first half, its net income reached 17.8 billion. That's a 79% year on year, 79% higher year on year. But if we exclude non-recurring items, this is even higher at plus 95%. So this is already way ahead of expectations because it's already 65% of full year consensus. And this is on the back of fresh contributions from its new project, which is a Dingin 2, as well as higher availability across its portfolio, as well as low base effect from Odette last year. Q2 alone produced a core income of 10.4 billion. This is also a huge improvement at plus 69% year on year. So we are still awaiting further details from its upcoming briefing, but I think the stronger than expected performance by the company reinforces our buy recommendation on the stock, and we are scheduled to report our short report on its latest earnings performance either soon, either today or tomorrow. Yeah, that's at least for my coverage for today. Anything from you, Bess?
Well, the latest economic news for today was the Federal Reserve's decision to increase their policy rate as expected by the market by 25 basis points. However, there was not any added clarity on what the Fed would like to do after this or going forward. So that would add to the volatility of the market since it's become more uncertain. There was no indication on or clues as to what they plan to do for the rest of the year. So we'll just have to wait and see. And this could, for every economic news for the US market or US economy that comes out in the next few days, next few weeks, because of that uncertainty, the reaction of the market could be more pronounced. So that will provide some volatility with also some risk for those markets such as the Philippines that are quite tied to the developed markets like the US. How about you, IC? Any interesting stocks that you've been seeing or
I was going to
watching?
share trying to avoid this power, but we're having some technical difficulty. I'll try to fix it.
All right. Okay. Actually, recently we also published an action idea on Bloom where we discussed its prospects. We actually re-upgraded our target price on the stock, and we're still very positive on the company because of its prospects. First, its in the industry gross gaming revenues are expected to exceed pre-pandemic levels by this year, and also we expect industry gross gaming revenues to return to trend growth starting in the coming years, because before the pandemic, the industry has been growing by 16% CAGR in the 5-year CAGR span. So we expect it to return to trend growth in the coming years. Also, the upcoming opening of Solar North in Vertis in QC is highly anticipated. So this should provide another leg for growth for the company. And that's why we reiterate our positive recommendation on the stock.
One thing also that we can watch out for in Bloom, if ever or whenever the delisting of FBI happens, it's the first in line that could replace Bloom is the first one that could replace FBI from the index, so that could be something that would also push the stock if and when that happens. Maybe later this year if the listing of FBI pushes through.
Yeah.
Having any luck with the charts? Not yet.
Not yet. Actually, yung prospect of replacing MPI parang added bonus na lang yun
Mhm.
for the company. But even without in the picture, we are already positive.
Also, something that we can look out for in the coming days, weeks, the rebalancing of the index is due to come out early in August. So what our expectation is that there will be no changes in the composition, but we do expect some changes in the weights for the members of the index. So just a few changes or just a couple that we expect. BPI might have an increase in its weight in the index by we estimate it to be about 0.31 percentage points. This is mostly because of it sent out or it paid out property dividends in the form of its own shares quite recently. So that meant that its float or its free float market, free float percentage and free float market cap increased, and the index is a free float market cap weighted index. So that's why we expect an increase in weight for BPI that could be positive for the stock price since having a higher weight in the index would push more buying activity for the stock normally. Similarly, I think
Also, BPI also released its earnings recently.
yes, a few days ago, BPI was the first actually to kick off the earnings season, and it reported second quarter recurring net income growth of 49% to 13.0 billion pesos, mostly driven by expansion in its net interest margins, also above industry loan growth, as well as lower impairment provisioning, or they did because of its superior asset quality, they didn't have to set aside capital to account for possible loans that might default or become non-performing. So that boosted their bottom line. So we expect similarly strong results for the major banks that are set to report their earnings quite soon. Actually, BDO, we expect BDO's earnings report, if not tomorrow, on Monday, they will have their briefing. So that's also something to watch out for. As we know, interest rates in the past few months have increased substantially because of the BSP rate hike since May last year. So that is still going to reflect on most of the bank's net income for this second quarter. And we all know that the BSP also paused in its rate hike cycle now. Although we don't expect it to reduce interest rates soon. So Finance Secretary Jokno also commented recently that they don't expect any rate cuts in the near future. So that means interest rates would remain high, and this would keep the net interest margin for banks like BPI and BDO elevated, and it would keep boosting their net income.
Yeah, actually, I also noticed na our overweight stance on banks has already been paying dividends. If you compare the indices among each other, the financial property, you can see that the financial sector has been leading the other indices by a lot on a year-to-date basis, and that's because of the factors that Bess mentioned. And we believe this would continue for the rest of the year.
Feel free to post your questions. If you have any questions or clarifications that you want to find out about what we've discussed so far. But right now you're
We can
ready
do a
to show
quick
the.
recap, yeah, even of the AP chart.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is the chart I was trying to share earlier. So this is the chart or the chart that Herman was talking about. It briefly broke below the 200-day, which is generally bearish, but was quickly able to make its way back above the 200 days. So this is a positive development. And Bloom is continuing to strengthen despite being a little bit on the overbought side. So any weakness or price pullback would be an opportunity possibly to join the trend of the stock.
What about for
I think we can
for VPI?
PPI. Just PPI. PPI is a little bit on the overbought side because it's outside the band. So if it can pull back closer to the MAs, might offer a better entry if you are bullish on the stock.
Actually, we're neutral on this stock. I guess that reinforces recommendation. Although on long term we might see a shift in towards more positive view on BPI because it's in its recent briefing for the second quarter results, we saw that its efficiency is improving by quite a lot, mostly due to the contribution of their digital channels, digital initiatives, which is something that they've invested in quite heavily over the past few years. So they're starting to reap the rewards from that, gaining more customers, gaining more market shares. It also resulted in higher expenses, so we would have to see if BPI will be able to mitigate that, and also what will be the effect on the NIMs eventually when the interest rates start to go down, perhaps early next year at the earliest. Apart from the ones that we covered or we discussed, is there any stock in particular that you're looking at? You might want to share.
We featured it before, maybe some episodes ago. One of the set, I think I shared it. I think we shared this clients before. So this is one of the more bullish looking charts on the stock. It projects a move to about 2 pesos. That's one where some of the smaller companies are looking.
Okay, unfortunately, they were not joined by our consumer analyst, but Kiko recently announced their earnings as well, I believe.
Yeah.
Which was very positive, and it's benefiting from, of course, from the reopening of the economy. More people are eating out and drinking out, so we're still quite positive on the stock, fundamentally as well.
Any questions? My questions.
I think they also, another consumer stock, announced their earnings, Wilcon. Although the results was not very positive, it saw some declines in same-store sales growth, which led to lower revenues. We will have a report on that coming out soon. So if you already signed up with MyTrade, that's gonna come into your inbox maybe today or tomorrow at the latest. So we will have our recommendation on that as well. So we have a question from Charles Twazon. Is it true that Holcim wants to delist? Do you want to take that, Herman?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it was I think it was explicitly undisclosed by the company in Edge. So yeah, the plan is the company will delist. That's why they're conducting a tender offer right now. Although because because trading was suspended, they have to do the tendering outside outside the PSE, which will require some additional taxes on the part of the shareholders. So for now, we are still waiting for developments on that part on whether the PSC will allow them to be accepted from that.
Well, actually, the PSA already made a statement that
Mhm.
they did not allow for the exemption of wholesale from the minimum public ownership rule. So that's the thing that led to because they're still suspended because of the minimum public ownership rule. Um, Stocks that are suspended or they're not trading in the DSE cannot be exempted from the taxes. They have to be the shareholders that will tender their shares will have to do it outside of the PSE facility. As you mentioned, that's why they will have to pay capital gains tax and DST tax, and also the documentations that are required are much more tedious. So if you still have wholesale, that's something that to keep in mind. Contact MyTrade if MyTrade is your broker, hopefully, on what are the requirements for you to be able to tender your shares. So, do you remember the tender off price?
It's at 533.
Yes, and if you are still holding all of them, we recommend for you to tender because we believe that this is for that for the tender offer price. So, and also if you don't tender and Holcim succeeds in delisting, it will be much more difficult to get rid of to liquidate your shares after it delists.
It's Facebook.
From Relax Muna, ay,
It's Facebook user.
from Relax Muna, FPNet plans to lift the suspension, question mark.
Yeah, for that, we're still, yeah, for that question, we're still waiting for management's disclosures on any updates regarding their planned private placement. The good thing about this is that they're already planning the private placement even before they got suspended. So this was already on the table. So I think they're still way within the 6 month window naman. So for now, we just need to wait for further announcements from management.
And from Facebook user, we're sorry we can't see your name. And face, sorry, then kakapasok pa lang po. Any insight po sa SSI at PLC? Thanks.
Wala
Maybe
si
you can
Rainier.
share chart.
Si Rainier.
Chart mo na.
Siya shows. Set yung chart. Lagyan natin yung chart. So this is the chart of SSI, very clear uptrend. You can see that support is holding at 285. And the volume has been very light. And it looks like it's part of a continuation pattern. So when the trend is up and the price action is sideways and volume is light, it's probably going to be continuation of the trend.
Yeah, in terms of valuations naman kay SSI, even though the stock has already appreciated by a lot on a year-to-date basis, it's still trading at around 4 times PE. So that's still very cheap for any company. So we think there's still a lot of room for the stock to go.
And as additional insight, since SSI's business is mostly catering to higher end consumers, or the part of the market that is not that much affected by inflation since they are high income. It's positive for the company's bottom line that the latest the high inflation of late has we don't think they have affected the appetite for the exercise products.
And PLC,
Yes.
Like PLC. See. Let's have a look. So PLC as well, the trend is up. Long-term trend is up. Volume is light. It looks like it's just forming a pause or a consolidation within the longer term uptrend. So my assumption is that uptrend will eventually continue. Can we have a look at GT cap? Let's see. It's okay. GT cap chart. Okay. So someone requested a chart of GT cap. So long-term trend is up, and this looks like it's bottoming out here. It looks like a cup. It's like a cup here. So cups are usually continuations. It's very bullish looking. Any comments on GT cap?
GT Cap, we're also positive on the stock since we expect its main drivers of income, mostly Metro Bank and Toyota Motors, to still post strong earnings growth in for the second half. For the first half, especially since vehicle sales are still growing by double digits as of the latest last June, I believe. Yes, 27%, I think. So although Toyota has given up a bit of the market share that they were able to corner over the past few months, they are still very dominant in the market. They're still in the high 40s in terms of market share, almost 50%. So they're still benefiting from that strong growth in vehicle sales. And for Metro Bank, as we mentioned earlier, the major banks are still going to benefit from the high interest rates, since we don't expect interest rates to go down soon. So we expect strong NIM expansion from Metro Bank, especially since they have a substantial percentage of the portfolio in consumer loans, like auto and credit cards. Also, one thing that is driving the loan growth of the major banks is the strong growth in consumer loans, particularly in credit cards. Aside from this, the strong growth in credit cards, the interest rates that they are able to charge on credit cards also increased compared to earlier in the year, since the cap on the credit card interest rate was lifted by the BSP. So that's something that is adding also to their interest incomes and bottom line. So we're still positive on GT cap. Any thoughts from Jonas, Cyril, Quizon? Any thoughts regarding Converge?
Okay, so for Converge, if you see its net adds in the past quarters, it showed a severe decline from the previous ones. So this reinforces our thesis that demand has been pulled forward because of the pandemic. And since if you also look at the ARPU, or the average revenue per user per month, it's also on a decline in the past quarters. The Converge is trying to venture into prepaid broadband because management noticed that they're seeing saturation in the postpaid space. So because of this, we expect churn rates to go up because of the venture into prepaid broadband, and also for ARPUs to further go down. So for Converge, we are neutral right now, and from the telco space in general, we continue to prefer Globe because of the expected listing of Mint, which we believe should boost valuations for Globe significantly. Siguro yan. Can we look at the chart on Converge? I think it has been on the way.
So Converge is testing the 10 peso 10-cent level. Of course, if it makes a new low, it's bearish. So bulls will want to see this break above this pivot level of 1160 to see it reverse. So until then, it's sideways at best.
Is that the 52-week low or all-time low?
All-time low question. Yes, it's all-time low. Oh, could be.
Actually, we've been getting a few queries on conversion, on whether the decline in the price of the past few months affects membership in the PSEI, but not in the upcoming review. Our estimate is that it will still remain in the index for now. So this decline in price or drop in price the past few months will be counted in the review in February. So if it continues to go down or if it stays down, then there is a danger for Converge to be removed. But for now, it's still safe. From Charles Lawson, any insight on Cemex?
Okay, so Cemex fundamentally, we might see some lift from the steady decline in coal prices because that's one of the main inputs. So that should help. That should help somehow yung margins ni Cemex and all cement sectors. However, on the demand side, we still don't expect any significant improvement, especially as construction companies are seeing that developers are deferring their projects because they're still testing the demand in the market. So this means that demand for cement we should still not expect any significant rebound on demand. We also shared in one of our review short takes report that we expect the stock to delist and to follow to follow suit. The examples of Holcim and Eagle, because we think the depressed stock price should that management might see the depressed stock price as an attractive opportunity to buy back the company and to generate potentially better returns as if and when the industry recovers in the coming years. So that's our 2 cents for CHP.
And sadly, no, we're running out of time. But we may be able to answer a couple more questions. So from Axel Libra. Sorry, when will be the announcement of PSC rebalancing? Do you see any changes? So we mentioned this earlier at the start of the line. We don't expect any changes in the composition, although we do expect some change or just a few changes in the weights. BPI might increase in weight because increase in float, also ASEN, it increased its float a little. We expect the weight for these two stocks to increase in the index, but the announcement of the changes or no changes as we expect. There's no set date, although this is usually announced by the BSE at the beginning of or early August. So malapit na. So maybe next week or over the next 2 weeks. And
Sinubukan din natin.
which one? For Vincent Lau, you're asking about SPNet. Maybe you can scroll. You can move the scroll bar because we discussed this earlier.
Siguro si Carola chat more technicals.
Okay, for our last question, Rolo Gel. Very interesting name. Thoughts on DNL and MAC?
Sure. Thank you. So for DNL, primary trend has turned down. 50-day MA is going to be a resistance level. Do you guys want to add color to DNL? Fundamentals.
If I remember correctly, DNL has increased a bit of its capacity, but this will add to its depreciation expense, which would have a negative effect on its earnings for the very near term. So, although we do expect this to bear fruit, not soon, but maybe in further later this year or maybe next year. For Mac naman, Mac we expect this to benefit from the increase in tourist arrivals, also in tourist arrivals for foreign tourists coming to the Philippines, and also increase in domestic tourism, since now the economy is fully reopened and there is more appetite for travel. We've also seen the numbers from the DOT that the tourism numbers are slowly and surely nearing the pre-pandemic numbers, so actually also benefit from that.
On the technicals for Matt, those will want to see this downtrend line break and hopefully can start trading sideways and eventually reverse. But until then, it's still down at the moment.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today's session. Usually, this is just a 30-minute Q&A live. But we're taking note of the questions that you've sent in the comment box so we can post our responses in our Facebook groups and other social media channels. So watch out for that. I think there was a question on Legal and Keeper. We just sent out a report on Legal actually. So if you're not yet signed up with MyTrade, open an account and you can have access to that report. And we'll see you again in 2 weeks for the next session of Beyond Connections. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.